Now that we've got the legs built, let's go ahead and create the arms and attach them to the jacket. All right, so the first thing I want to do, if you haven't done this, is we want to unhide the jacket. That's the geometry that we cloned earlier from this shirt. So to do this, I'm just going to right-click, and I want to unhide by name. And that'll bring up a little window here in just a second. There we go. And so the jacket is what I want to unhide. This is going to show you everything that's hidden. So you can see I've got the hair and the eyebrows hidden as well. So I'll go ahead and say unhide that. And that'll bring that geometry in. I'll just hit F4 to turn on edged faces and just maximize that viewport. And now I'm going to build it on this side. So you can see in our image, we've got one arm that's sticking out straight. And this is how I'm going to build this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete half of our jacket. Just going all the way back here. Just go ahead and get rid of that part. And so we're going to be building on this side. Okay, now it just depends on how your pipeline works, how the kind of the riggers and the people that are going to be working on this want this to be set up. A lot of times you'll be building these arms in this kind of T pose or sometimes kind of an M pose. It just depends. So in this case, we're going to build it straight out and attach it to the jacket. Let's go ahead and modify this jacket first a little bit to get the proper shape. So I'll just kind of pull some of this geometry out here a little bit, kind of match up with what we've got in our drawing, and just kind of pull that out. And then we've got the shoulder over here, so we can come in and start to drop this in, kind of pull that over. So just kind of match that up, and you could do the same thing from this view, but this should be fairly close. You might want to make it, bring that in a little bit more. Keep in mind, though, when you smooth this, it'll lose a little bit of volume. All right, so now what we want to do is create the arm, and we're going to do this pretty much the same way that we did the leg. So we'll go to create a standard primitive, and let's create a cylinder. And I'll go ahead and draw that out from the left-hand view, and just give it a little bit of height there. We'll go to modify, and let's go ahead and move it over to the correct side here. All right, and now we just want to make sure that we've got the correct resolution here. So we've got 8 sides, and that's what we use for the leg, so I think that's going to work just fine for us. I want to go ahead and increase the height. We can do that. Okay, and let's go ahead and I've got 5 segments in here. Let's give it maybe one more segment. We can always add some more later. Let's go ahead and right-click on this, convert to editable poly. Okay, and then we'll go to the polygon subobject. I'm just going to delete the polygons down here on the ends. Okay, and now we can start to do some shaping. So we can come here from the front, which is where we're going to be doing most of our shaping, and we can sort of assume that the arm is going to be fairly cylindrical. Okay, so let's go ahead and modify this as a whole. So we can select this entire kind of loop of vertices here, and just go ahead and move those down. This we can scale down just a little bit maybe, and rotate it slightly. Okay, where this is going to start to connect up with the rest of the jacket. Go ahead and just scale the rest of this down and just kind of move it into position. Okay, down here as well, and we want to place one of these right at the elbow here. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up and scale this down and move it down, and then I'll put this one right at that elbow. You can see that right there. That sticks out a little bit. Okay, so we want to make that a bit bigger. Go ahead and scale that, and then we'll do the same thing here. Come in here and scale this down and just create the shape of the arm from the front view. Okay, and he's got these gloves that kind of cover his arms. So let's go ahead and actually extend the arms kind of out here to almost where the hand starts. So let's not stop it right at the glove. We'll go ahead and bring it all the way out here. Okay, let's go ahead and add some resolution in here. So I'm just going to do connect, and I'll add one right there. Say OK to that. And I'm going to come in and just shape this a little bit more. So I want this to be a little bit more of a smooth transition there. All right. And now we can take a look at this, and we can see what this looks like. So we'll do a little bit of shaping from the perspective. All right. So you can see that that's looks okay from this angle, but from this angle, it's really a little bit too wide. So we'll go ahead and just bring this in. This one, It needs to be scaled out a bit. Okay, so we just want to do some shaping and get this arm looking the way it needs to. And we want it to be fairly straight, but I usually like to give maybe just a little bit of a bend in there. But we can do that. We can just kind of pull this back a little bit. Okay. And then here in the where the elbow is, we can take these points here and we'll just kind of scale those down. Okay, and just kind of push them in a little bit, and then same thing here where that elbow is. And just maybe pull those down a little. Okay, so we're just kind of coming in here and doing some shaping just like we did with the leg. Okay, and if you want to, you could smooth this and do the shaping in that way. So come down to your subdivision surface and turn on the NURMS, and then you could come in and shape it and say, okay, well, I think this is, now that I can see that smooth shape, it's going to be a little bit too high there. And maybe I want this forearm to be a little bit bigger. Maybe scale this up a little bit. So you can really kind of get things looking a little bit closer to what you want. And maybe just move that up just a little. Okay. And sometimes, again, your artwork, what you have for your artwork is not going to work exactly for your 3D model. So you might have to do a few modifications there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this upper part of the arm back, and let's just scale this out a little bit. Give him a little bit more meat on his bones. He's supposed to be kind of lanky, but I want to still have a little bit of that definition in there. Okay, maybe kind of pull some of this back. And just kind of do a little bit of shaping in there. All right. Let's go ahead and pull this elbow back. And I want to add a few lines here because knowing this is going to be animated, we want to have enough resolution here. So I'll just select those, add another line in there, just drop that in a little bit closer to the elbow. And let's do the same thing over on this side and drop this in a little bit closer to that elbow as well. Okay. And then I'm just going to pull this back a little. Just like that to create kind of a more of a straight line there. And let's do the same thing here. And just kind of shape that a little bit more. All right. Let's go ahead and connect this up before we do any more shaping. So I'm going to go ahead and select the jacket piece that we've got. And let's go to Edit Geometry. And we'll go down to Attach. And let's go ahead and attach the arm. And you can see that that was smooth with the NURMS, but that's been turned off now that that's attached into this editable poly. It's kind of taken on the characteristics of that one. So now what we want to do is actually connect the geometry itself. So I'm going to go in and just delete 4 polygons here and go ahead and just delete those. And now we can either target weld these, we could do a bridge. Let's just go ahead and weld those together. So I'm going to go down to our Edit Vertices and do Target Weld, and I'll just drag those across here. Okay. And then we can go ahead and move those into the correct position. So I'm just dragging from the one I want to move to the one that's going to remain stationary. We'll go ahead and drag that across. Turn that off, and now we can take these vertices and we can go into our kind of our front view and just kind of put those in the right spots there. I'll pull this one, and maybe this one comes over here, and think of this as kind of where that seam's going to be. I'll pull that over and then bring this one, and we could actually bring all these at once over to the side there. Okay. And this one could kind of come up a little bit and over. And then you get the kind of the seam in there. Okay, and the same thing over here. Kind of bring that over, and then the back of the shoulder there, you can kind of bring that over to create wherever that seam is going to be. And let's go ahead and drop another line in there. So we'll select these edges and go ahead and connect. And we'll add it kind of right in the middle. And then any sort of changes we want to make, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up into the interior a little bit. Okay. And then we get kind of something like like that. Now let's go ahead and check on the elbow. Now this is going to be very simplified, obviously, but we still want to have detail like we had. If we take a look at the legs, we have that kind of wrinkly detail behind the legs. And so let's do something sort of similar here, and we might be able to get away with just using this geometry here. If we go ahead and just grab this, the interior here, and kind of pull this in and maybe pull this out a little bit, we kind of want to get a wrinkle maybe on this side, and we also want to kind of emphasize the elbow at the back. So what we can do is go to Edit Geometry, and we'll use Cut once again. Okay, and it's actually, since we want to use this geometry in the back, let's actually not do that. Let's actually add a loop all the way around. So to do that, again, we'll just use Connect, and let's just slide it up next to that, and then we can use that geometry here. Okay, we can use that to create this kind of a wrinkle. So if we want to have a little wrinkle in here, kind of pull that out. Maybe pull that up a little bit. Okay, and then back here, we can use this to kind of sharpen this elbow up a little. If we take a look at that by smoothing it, you can see we're starting to get a little bit of an elbow in there. Give it a couple of iterations. Okay, get a little bit of the defined elbow, and then we're starting to get a little bit of that definition in here, and we can come in and modify that a little bit more. Maybe bring this all the way out, maybe bring this in, and then you get more of the look of the wrinkle coming out and going back into the arm, if you want to do that. Just kind of don't make it anything too drastic, and then you could do the same thing on the other side if you wanted to. Make a little wrinkle over there. And just kind of pull that in. And maybe this needs to be pulled down a little bit. We'll just do a little bit of shaping here. I'm going to pull this elbow out. And you just get kind of a nice little shape there on the elbow, right? Okay. And you might want to go ahead and define this under the arm a little bit more. Although when we come in and start to add the seams, that'll tend to kind of sharpen that up, because you don't really want that kind of a smooth transition. You want to have kind of the seam there, and so that'll fix things a little bit when we actually create the seam. All right, so now that we've got the arm built out and attached to what's going to be the jacket, the next thing we want to do is start on the hands. So you can see we've got these big gloves and these hands sticking out here. So let's go ahead and spend a couple of lessons creating the hands and attaching those, putting those onto the arms themselves. So we'll go ahead and tackle that in the next lesson.